friends, have you ever opened a salve to put it on a wound and you're trying to get it and it's just, it doesn't slide very well, or you're left with goop everywhere? Well, today we are gonna fix that problem by making a wound spray instead of having to deal with yucky fingers and salve. Hello, my name is Amanda and I am from the Wild Herbal. So let's get started. We need a little bit of plantain leaf. We need chickweed, some hops, some calendula are the herbs that we're using today. And we also need some witch hazel, a little bit of water, a jar to put our tincture in when we're done, and something to measure out our ounces for our menstruum. So the first thing we're gonna do is figure out our math, the lovely math. So I like to do a 1 to 5 tincture. So we are going to figure out how much menstruum we need and how much herbs we need to make that happen. So let's go. The second thing we need to do is let's get started. So we are going to put our herbs into our mason jar. We're going to put it on our scale, turn it on, and press tare. And you want to make sure that your unit is in ounces or grams if you want to figure that out. So we need 4 ounces of herb, and I have plantain, chickweed, calendula, and hops. So because I have 4 herbs, I'm just going to use 1 ounce of each herb. So I'm going ahead and measure out 1 ounce of each herb to put in here. So I forgot my canning funnel. We're gonna go ahead and put our canning funnel on top, press tare again, and we're gonna use plantain first. So this is some wild crafted plantain that my kids and I collected this last week. And we are going to use plantain because it is very good at drawing out infection. And it's just a really great healer overall for the skin and for any type of infections. And the next one we're gonna use is chickweed. Now we're using chickweed. The chickweed is really amazing at soothing inflammation. So when you have a wound, that's something that helps is chickweed. And the next one that we're gonna use is something my lovely friend gave me, is calendula, or calendula, I think is the proper way to say that. And this makes your oil, typically, or your tincture, very nice and yellow. It adds a beautiful color. And calendula is really good to help increase blood flow to the wound, and it also helps the body make new tissue. So if you watch my other video about why I don't use comfrey in my wound tincture, this is a good replacement for comfrey because it helps to build tissue just like comfrey does. And the next one that we're going to add is hops. Now hops is a nervine, and it's a little bit of an odd one to add because it's just not one that you typically see in tinctures. And I'm adding it because it really helps with pain. We are gonna get about a little under 3.5 ounces in this jar because we use some really fluffy herbs. So hops is a really fluffy herb, as well as calendula and plantain. So we have about 3.5. So I might just put a little bit less water, possibly, if I can get away with that. Something else that you can do, you can take this and you can grind it down to a powder, and then you can strain it out, and that's another solution if you want to do that as a solution. I don't like diluting and straining powders, so I will just make my tincture a little less strong and it's gonna be okay. So this is, we're adding in 16 ounces of witch hazel. Now this witch hazel is already has alcohol in it, so we don't have to add anything else. And then I'm going to measure out 4 ounces of water because that gives us our 20 ounces of menstruum that we need. And we'll see if we need a little bit more. So that puts us right up to the top, but I'm gonna add another ounce just to make sure that the herb stays covered. One thing to be cautious of whenever you're using water in a tincture is your water always has to be below 40% water, because if not, your tincture will mold. So now we have our finished wound spray that is technically called a liniment because you cannot ingest this. This has rubbing alcohol in it and it is not safe to go into your mouth. So whenever you label it, you always want to either put on your label a liniment, if you can remember what that means, or put on your label not safe for ingestion, that it has rubbing alcohol. If I would have made my own witch hazel and mixed that with vodka, then I could have used it both ways if I wanted to. Because it is to put in a spray bottle just for me to keep on hand, so when my kids get scratches and cuts, I can just spray it quickly on there and not have to worry about putting salves on there. I can go back to my little Band-Aid. That's not always the easiest or the best solution. This is gonna help, and I don't need to put vodka in it, and I'm just gonna use just the regular witch hazel, and it's cheaper that way too, and really easy. So I am going to let this sit for 2 weeks. You can let it sit longer than that, in between 2 and 6 weeks. Because this is a clear glass jar, I'm going to store it where there is no direct sunlight or direct light. And I'm also need to keep it away from the heat, so you can shake it, put it away after you label it. That's the next thing. So I keep all of my recipes in this little blue book. I have this labeled as wound spray, and if I have any questions as to what is in this jar, and I can look up the exact recipe so that I know what's in there. If you don't have somewhere where you're storing your herbs, then on your label you might want to add that you added 1 ounce of plantain, 1 ounce of chickweed, 1 ounce of calendula, and then 1 ounce of hops. So on my label, I'm just gonna put wound spray. You wanna put the date that you are making it, and that is all that I put. Just the name, the date I'm making it. And another thing I'm going to put on here is that it is a liniment and do not ingest. I like to always have my liniments labeled when they're in the mason jar, as well as when I label it on my spray. I'm going to put in here that it is for external use only, not to ingest. So that is all. It is super easy, and this is just going to be for any time you have scratches or wounds. It can be used on animals. So if you have issues, we've used it on our cats before, and it works really well, and it's a lot easier, especially when you're dealing with animals, that you're not having to deal with hair or fur. So I like it a lot better when we're dealing with the animals, just being able to spray on there, and it works. It is just as effective as using a salve, but it keeps the wound a little bit cleaner. In between 2 and 6 weeks, when this is done, you're going to strain this. If you don't know how to strain it, you can check up this video up here, and that'll tell you how to strain your tincture. And then we're going to put it into a spray bottle and label the spray bottle, and then you can put it in your first aid kit or wherever you're most likely going to use it. And if you are interested in a printable recipe card that you can print out and keep in either a little blue book or somewhere else, or print it on sticker paper and actually stick it on your jar or on your label, you can click the subscribe to my email list in the description, and I send out a newsletter every week, and it'll have a printable recipe that goes along with the video if that's applicable, or other tips and tricks to help you on your herb journey. But thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.